So, so here's the tactical application of the mannishness of man that he wants us to take away from this. He says that the profound truths we all know on the inside always eventually reveals themselves on the outside, right? So they eventually reveal themselves on the outside. And he says all you need to do is listen. Just listen, right? Understanding this inside-out pattern provides a powerful technique to get someone thinking. So, when these things crop up, and he's going to give us some examples here, then we point those things out and help people to see the implications of what they're talking about, right? For instance, ethics and morality, right? Well, that, in a naturalistic world, one could argue that really doesn't exist, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if everything is just, physical stuff, then where does ethics and morality come from?
Yeah.
And so if people begin to talk about that, all right, now they've slipped out the mannishness of man.
Right. If all humans are is just brain chemistry that fizz at a certain rate, and you might fizz differently when you're talking about physics because you really like physics, so your brain goes a different way, and mine really fizzes on hurting puppies, And so when we talk about things like laws of logic, well, maybe you're just fizzing at an incorrect way, and you've just kind of, through might makes right, you've convinced me that this thing of law of the excluded middle or non-contradiction just happens to be true, and I'm just not smart enough to outdo your wit. And so who's to say the different fizzing of our brain chemicals is kind of allowing us a survival aspect to agree with that. But what does that mean in a purely naturalistic cause and effect only universe where the first cause is either the Big Bang with no God, or creation death, expand contract that is also positive.
The heat death of the universe or whatever.
Right. Yeah. Maybe. And so we see this talked about. I just listened to a debate between on Unbelievable podcast with Braxton Hunter and he's the Dan Barker, the Freedom from Religion Foundation, the and so Dan Barker wrote this book about how it appears that we have free will, but because he's got the squirrel that he trained to come up on his chest and take a peanut from him, that he doesn't really have free will, so he extrapolates and says, well, we don't really have free will. But he's written a book. He's trying to convince people.
He's chosen to write.
We have to operate in a world where it appears
to convince people that his position, to choose his position over other positions.
And so if you have an idea of soft determinism, which I don't know how that exists in a world of no God, but it seems like you would have to be either a hard determinist or a full on libertarian free will person. And so Braxton Hunter's a libertarian free will type person, not the political idea, but the philosophical idea of libertarianism, free will. And it seems like even doing the debate, all Braxton Hunter, if he was a good presuppositionalist, would say the fact that you're engaging in this debate helps to cement the fact that you're trying to convince me of things.
That's right. And so just by showing up on the debate, you lose the debate.
So you're wasting your time if this is all here. Why are you writing a book? What are you convincing people who
getting them to choose your position? And how if they don't have the capacity to choose? Why are you trying to convince them to choose your position?
And so Robert P. Murphy, who's been on the show before, he had a little debate with a postmodernist, Thaddeus Russell. And I like listening to Thaddeus's podcast too, but they were talking about roles and certain things, and for postmodernists, he kind of slips up at the end of this interview and says, if you love freedom the way that I do, you must do this. And I was like, there's the slip.
Can't say that.
Ooh, there's a must. That's an ought. Ooh, postmodernists can't have musts and oughts there. And so when I was reading this chapter, I was thinking back to that. But luckily, Greg Kokel has way better examples, and I'll put those two interviews in the description below, and there'll be cards for it in the top of this video if you're watching the video version. So.